Welcome back to the home field advantage. A little bit something different here. We've got an emergency stream. There are some things that we need to discuss based on injury news, based on Thursday night football that I cannot go without talking about. I had an upload scheduled for today, but it's completely thrown out the window. All of my rankings are completely thrown out the window. So I'm just going ahead and putting this out right now, not editing it, just doing some raw rankings, going through my updated rankings and where I've had to move some people, not only talking about what's going on for the rest of this week, but the guys that played in Thursday night, they're moving for next week, for rest of season. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got some really important things that we need to discuss. And I'm going to go ahead and jump in to my running backs firsthand. Um, this is where things get rough. I have been immensely disappointed by Bijan. As a Bijan owner in multiple leagues, I'm ready to give up. And I don't feel like that's me panicking. I feel like that's me realizing what fate is. Now, before we get into him, there are some injuries that are looking a little bit more concerning. Obviously, we got bye weeks down here. Jameer, David Montgomery, Saquon Barkley, J.K. Dobbins, all out on a bye as Isaiah Pacheco and Christian McCaffrey still hurt. But Jonathan Taylor is surprisingly enough looking like he may not play. And that is a little bit of the concerning thing because we've been looking at his high ankle sprain. It's been a mild high ankle sprain, but still, when you hear that, if you've been an Austin Eckler owner or a Raheem Mostert owner in the past couple of years, that phrase might give you a little bit of PTSD. He hasn't practiced at all, not once. And if I'm looking at what I'm seeing from Trey Sermon, this isn't an offense that I'm really buying into too much this week because you've also got Anthony Richardson looking like he may be okay. Now, if Joe Flacco comes in, I would be a little bit shocked. But as of right now, Richardson has been practicing. He's been limited, but he's been practicing. And with JT out, I think they're going to roll with Richardson just because there will be at least that dual threat at quarterback. Now, if they do decide to go with Flacco, I'll be a little shocked, definitely. But I think Anthony Richardson is the better move against the Jacksonville Jaguars just because you need that dual threat, a guy that can keep the ball in his hands if he's a runner. But then again, he just got hurt running the ball. He does not know how to slide. So what is that going to do for your offense overall? That's why I've got Trey Sermon as a mid RB2 play. As of right now, if I'm looking at what Sermon needs to do, I'm looking at a guy that needs to lock in, that needs to just get over whatever hump he's been in his entire career and just be a solid, flex play RB2. Honestly, I'll probably move him down to flex because I think if you have Jonathan Taylor, that is the only reason you're putting this guy in your RB slot. But if not, then you're probably using him as a flex play. It doesn't look good. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to end up missing this week. But going back over to Bijan, I put him in set and forget the past couple of weeks, and I moved him down to elite RB1 because I thought he had a good matchup and the potential to bounce back. I don't think that anymore. I think as of right now, Bijan's usage has gone down every single week since week 1. It is the same exact story from last year. And you've got really good matchups coming up that I don't know if I can even trust you in. You are a pass-catching back that your whole floor has been based off of what you can do as a pass catcher. And you've time and time again disappointed me, disappointed owners, disappointed fans. When you're called on as a rusher, you've seemed inefficient at times. You can't get into the end zone. This offense doesn't seem to trust you more than Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier was on the field for pretty much the entire fourth quarter and all of overtime. Now, obviously, you're passing for 500 yards. The run game is going to be X'd out. But for Bijan to only get under 20 yards in an offense that has 500 yards through the air, questions what is his floor? Is 10 points his floor? Now, that's not the worst floor in the world, but that isn't an RB1. He's yet to finish within the top 12. He has not put up any sort of performance that is even close to redeeming the quality that you drafted him at. For now, I'm going to be moving Bijan Robinson down to a high-end RB2 because that's what he's playing as right now. And if I'm looking at some of these guys in the tier that he's in, I mean, I think it's disrespectful to James Cook to put him in here. So I'm going to put James Cook in heavy volume because when this Bills offense isn't being blown out, James Cook is heavily involved. And that's not changing. James Cook is a guy that gets it done through the air, just like Bijan Robinson. He's a guy that when he's called upon to run the ball, he's usually efficient. That's the story you hear with Bijan. You want to know what James Cook has that Bijan Robinson doesn't? It's 8 touchdowns on the year compared to Bijan's 1. Bijan Robinson, through 5 weeks, drafted as one of the top guys in the entire league at the running back position. As of right now, he has 1 touchdown. It's unbelievable. He's averaging 4.3 yards per carry compared to a guy like James Cook, who honestly, if I'm a Bijan owner, I'm going to try to get. I think James Cook is a really good guy to get here. Because you're looking at him, he's in a really good offense. Atlanta's a really good offense, but James is being used. So far in the year, James Cook has 3 on the ground, 1 through the air. Doing really, really good so far. I don't know why I said he had 8 touchdowns. I don't know where I saw that from. But he has 4. I don't know why I said 8, but I guess I just doubled his numbers. James Cook looks more efficient on the ground. He's getting a lot more done through the air than Bijan is, even though he might not be getting as many targets as Bijan. Right now, James Cook is itched in at 10 targets compared to Bijan's 19, but James Cook has been way more efficient on the ground, through the air. He's scoring touchdowns. I'm ready to sell Bijan for what I can. Because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It's immensely disappointing. If I'm a Bijan owner, I'm panicking. I'm panicking. And if anybody wants to sit there and be like, oh, it's only up from here, I've heard the same story from last year. So as of right now, Bijan Robinson is no better than Tony Pollard. This week, he's definitely no better than Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, Chuba Hubbard. And Travis Etienne, maybe. But Travis Etienne has his own things that he needs to get through. I'm not entirely sure where this goes from here. Thursday Night Football was really weird because Rachaad White ended up looking better than Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving fumbled on the biggest drive of the game and pretty much cost the Bucs the game. And that's a guy that you were hoping to start trusting a little bit more of a Rachaad White. So now that's a question mark. You do have a couple of guys that are coming back from injury. Raheem Mostert looks like he's going to play this week. Same with Austin Eckler. Nick Chubb coming off of the PUP list. That looks pretty promising. Jonathan Brooks, as of right now, has not started practicing from what I've seen. It doesn't look like he'll come back. I'm going to leave him on the hurt list. And as of right now, Chuba is still the guy to buy in this offense. But overall, it's desolate for running backs right now. Kyren, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, outside of Saquon Barkley are the best guys to get. Or if you've got them, they're not going anywhere. They're studs. I think Josh Jacobs is set up to have a really good week this week. I said that twice now, but I think Jacobs had 3 opportunities that were all just vultured from him. If you watch that game, there were a lot of opportunities that Josh Jacobs should have been in. He didn't look bad last game when you were watching him. It's just this offense for Green Bay got down early and they just passed a lot. And that's unfortunate. Devon Achane, he may not be a 3-down back, but he's a guy that makes the most out of his opportunities and he gets a lot of them. So, I mean, the best possible buy that I could see for Bijan right now, I don't know if I'm a Bijan owner, I would go after Breece Hall because it does seem like you may be getting the same story there. With Breece is another guy that if we have a poor week from him, if he cannot get into the end zone, and if Braylon Allen, who right now is flex play, if he keeps vulturing stuff from Breece Hall, Braylon Allen will start being talked about in this mid RB2 tier because he's producing like it. It's weird. It's weird. It's a really weird season so far. We're having a lot of older backs kind of having a renaissance and just playing some of the best ball that they've had yet in their career. And then you've also got young guys like Kyren and Devon who, no matter what the situation that their offense is in, they're still a guy that you want to buy in on. Kenneth Walker is a guy who came off a 3-touchdown performance. He's a guy that I think is about equivalent to James Cook when you're looking at their value. I think if you've got both of those guys on your roster, you're more than set for a strong, strong season. But if you got either of those guys, those are RB1s. Those are guys that will likely be moving up to the elite RB1 tier. But they're just down here with heavy volume just because of their matchups. It's really weird what the running backs are right now. I'm very concerned, but I guess we will just keep trucking. Now for the wide receivers are the ones that I'm a little concerned about. Malik Neighbors was just called out. He is out for the week, and you see some pretty big names down here on injury and bye. Jordan Addison is no longer injured. He is good. He didn't look limited last week. He looked like a guy that you could probably throw into the flex pretty reliably. He may be a guy, if this offense ends up being super productive, when TJ Hawkinson comes back, if this offense just moves a lot better, he could be a guy that gets up here into the wide receiver 2, high-end flex play. As of right now this week, I like what I'm seeing from Brian Thomas Jr. I'm going to move him and Christian Kirk up to high-end flex. I think Kirk is got that slot. More on Malik Neighbors. Him being injured this week sucks overall for this offense because Johnson is not going to get the opportunities that he's been getting these past couple of weeks. So if he does manage to get into the end zone and have a decent week here, I'm selling him. If you try to sell him for a guy like Tank that I think can be on the way up, for a guy like Rome Odunze, if Josh Downs is still available on your waiver, go out and pick him up because I think no matter who the quarterback is, he's still getting a good amount of targets. And Josh Downs in his first game back had like a 50% snap share and still was towards the top of the team in targets. And they were targets that were getting caught. They weren't like being sailed over his head like with Michael Pittman Jr. But these injuries are rough, man. You've got some young guns like Pearsall and Roman Wilson, who is just non-existent. Those are two guys that are still dealing with injuries. Christian Watson just got diagnosed with a high ankle sprain. That's why you see guys like Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs up here so high because you know Jaden Reed is the ace in this offense. But Dontavian Wicks, what was the number one waiver wire pickup for this week, and I think is a guy that will have a decent week. I just need to see a little bit more from him overall to be a little bit more confident. But I do think Dontavian Wicks is a good play. Overall, the buys this week kind of suck. The injuries, Rashee Rice, we still don't know what his injury is. It looks like we're moving away from an ACL and towards a PCL. So that might be something he'll be able to come back from late in the season, but I don't know how fantasy viable he'll continue to be. This may be a 4 to 8 week absence. And at this point, we're getting into week 5. He just got put on IR. If you're getting a guy that could potentially be out for 8 more weeks, that's the whole regular season. So that it's a very concerning thing. You know, they're going to play it smart to try to get Rice back for the playoffs. Adam Thielen being out with this offense being a lot more productive is great for Mr. Xavier Legette, who is another big wide receiver that a lot of people were picking up on the waiver wire. He looked really good in his first matchup as the bona fide wide receiver too. And I like him a lot this week alongside his teammate Deontay Johnson. The bottom tier, when you're trying to look for guys that can, boom for you if you're in a deeper league, is rough this week. I threw Jalen Hyatt out here just if this offense still wants to be a high pass offense with Daniel Jones, he'll have to be involved alongside Darius Slayton. But I would think that Jalen Hyatt is the name that people would gravitate towards off the waiver wire. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is on his way towards being moved up. Darnell Mooney every single week is going to be a pretty decent flex play. I don't know about high end flex, but he's a guy that I'd be ready to throw in. Keon Coleman, I need to see a little bit more before he starts getting thrown up there, but he will be there soon. Jalen Tolbert, decent. Jerry Jeudy, good target share, but a very bad offense that I think is only viable for Amari Cooper. Now, you look at these guys towards the top, they're not going anywhere. Drake London, I moved him up to elite wide receiver 1, and I think he's going to stay there for the rest of the season. I moved Mr. Garrett Wilson down to a decent wide receiver 2 alongside Zay Flowers. I'm going to go ahead and move Devontae Adams down there with them too, because with Devontae, he's injured right now, but you're looking at a guy that if he doesn't get traded, he's staying here. If he does get traded, automatically gets thrown up to elite wide receiver 1. But as of right now, technically on an injury report, not likely to play. So Devontae will be in the injured list too. Look at these names that aren't available this week. A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Rashee Rice, Cooper Kupp, Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Malik Neighbors. Absolutely nuts. All guys that when they're playing or healthy, they're top 20 quality guys. It's nuts. Jamison, maybe not, but his big playability in that offense makes him that. It's insane. It's a rough week. For the elite wide receiver ones, Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr., Nico Collins. I'm putting Nico Collins in set and forget. He's a stud. And he may be the best. He may be the best guy up here this week too. Jettas, he's still him. Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, those guys are always going to be spoon-fed. But Nico Collins, no matter what the game plan is being used a lot. Liked what I saw from DK these past couple of weeks. I'm kind of expecting that to continue. Deebo Samuel is the only guy that I think Brock Purdy can trust in this wide receiver core outside of Jawan Jennings, but I'm not throwing him up here with Deebo Samuel back. I need to see something for Brandon Ayuk soon. I know you're starting off slow from that holdout. That's your fault, though. I need to see something from Brandon Ayuk this week. But Deebo Samuel, as of right now, he's still my RB1. I mean, not RB1, but on this team, he may be the RB1. That no respect to Jordan Mason. He's having a phenomenal year. But Deebo is the guy that I'm buying in this offense. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, good weeks. Mike Evans had a little bit of a better week than Chris Godwin, but they're both still target hogs. They're going to stay here. DJ Moore, I think I'm going to throw into wide receiver 2 range just because he has a good matchup this week, but I am looking for these other guys like Rome and Keenan Allen to start getting used a little bit more. Even though Keenan Allen got a really good target share week 1, so did DJ Moore. So I do still think he is a pretty good wide receiver too. But as of right now, I don't think he's going to get that high volume tag. Like Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, Jaden Reed are all getting really high volume. They're all really efficient. Amari Cooper is 2 plays away. I saw this. He has a 45-yard touchdown wiped off, or like a 35-yard touchdown, whatever it was. And then the 80-yard touchdown got pulled back for a BS holding penalty. He has 2 plays that are keeping him from being a top 10 wide receiver. Amari Cooper is in the 40s, I believe, right now for wide receiver rankings. And he has 2 plays that are restricting him from being a top 10 wide receiver. He's getting astronomical value. This is still a guy that I like. Rest of season, I don't know if he's a trade deadline candidate. We got to see a little bit more over these next couple of weeks. He's got a really good matchup against Washington. He could end up being a league winner this week. I'm holding on Cooper before I decide that I want to trade him. But I think if he's a guy that you want to trade for, that's something I wouldn't be against because you could probably still get him for really good value. Get him last minute. Get that trade put through. Put him in your lineup. I think he can win you a week here. Alongside Terry McLaurin. Really good value. And this Browns defense sucks. But yeah, Tyreek Hill, a guy that everyone's saying to buy. I'd wait a couple of weeks before I buy him so we get closer to what Tua is going to be fully healthy. But Tyreek, he's a league winner once Tua comes back, going right back up to set and forget. But as of right now, he's got Tyler Huntley as his quarterback. That's not much. T. Higgins is leading this team in target share over the last couple of weeks, and you love to see it. You really love to see it. Jamar Chase, he's a big play machine, so he's always going to be up here. But T. Higgins is getting looked at a lot over the middle of the field, at the sidelines, in the red zone. He is slowly starting to return the value that you want Salty at. And that was a very good wide receiver 2 and a low-end wide receiver 1. Because this is an offense of 2 wide receiver 1s that would be highly productive if they weren't beside each other, but they are, and they're still pretty productive. And then, like I said, with Brandon Ayuk, I need to see a little bit more. These decent wide receiver 2 tiers, they're really rough. I think this week you're seeing a decent week from JSN, Khalil Shakir, Xavier Worthy. These are the guys that are high-end flex plays, I would assume. Same thing with Brian Thomas Jr. and Christian Kirk. Stephon Diggs has performed really, really well, but just because the efficiency of his targets are not close to what Nico Collins was, or when Tank was healthy, the air yards Tank was getting was a lot more efficient than the air yards that Stephon Diggs was getting. Is he still getting used? Yes. Are you playing him if you have him? Yeah, I still think he's a wide receiver 2. He's not a wide receiver 1. But based off of what he's doing with the usage he's getting, you can't disrespect him and say, oh, he's a mid-flex play just because of the inefficiency of his usage. He's getting good usage, and it's resulting in points. George Pickens is going to eat this week, but he does have Trayvon traveling with him. So I think this is going to be more of a run heavy game. That's why if you went back over to my running back rankings, I had Najee Harris as a high end RB2 for good reason. And that's because his defensive line is very weak. And you look through a lot of these other names. We've pretty much covered all of them. We go over to the quarterbacks. This is where I think things start to get interesting. You see Patrick Mahomes all the way down here in the shadow realm tier for good reason. I am not starting Patrick Mahomes for the rest of the season until he puts up more than 17 points. It's ridiculous. It's the same story with Patrick Mahomes and Bijan Robinson. You're drafting them as top guys, and they can't even sniff the jockstrap of guys like Kirk Cousins or Baker Mayfield, or for Bijan, they can't even sniff the jockstraps of guys like Tony Pollard. Joe Mixon made this guy look like, chop cheese. I mean, look like chop change, man. I don't know. I don't even know what the word is for how bad Bijan is right now. It's just insane. But going back over to the quarterbacks, of course, set and forget Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, new name up here, Jaden Daniels. He's playing out of his mind. You're not even thinking about benching him. This week, Justin Fields is an elite quarterback. I think he's a really, really good play alongside Dak Prescott because he needs to play hero ball. Kyler Murray is a little worrisome this week, so I'm going to move him down here to find QB play. If Trey McBride is back, which I would have to check the injury report for Trey McBride, but it does seem like he's still questionable. He's cleared concussion protocol, and nope, they just released it. So Trey McBride will play. So because of that, I'm going to be nice and move him back up. But with Trey McBride back, he needed that badly. I moved Baker Mayfield up to an elite quarterback because Baker is playing like a top 10 quarterback right now for fantasy and in real life. And I'm loving it. Jordan Love, really, really productive offense. He's going to stay up here. Same thing with CJ Stroud and Joe Burrow. Kirk Cousins, absolute explosion. He's not going to move up to an elite quarterback because it is still a little bit matchup dependent, but an absolute amazing game from ATL Kirko. Phenomenal. Brock Purdy, playing like one of the league's better quarterbacks just because he's in one of the league's better offensive systems. It's kind of hard not to. When you've got all those weapons around you, when you've got a guy that is just really, really good for the Kyle Shanahan system and has proven that he is not just, some guy that magically got put in and starting doing good. He does have talent. But he is still a fine quarterback play just because the rushing upside isn't there. Anthony Richardson has nothing but rushing upside, but his arm is the most inconsistent thing in the world. And Geno Smith, playing fine. I still think he's a fine quarterback play. Some of these guys, you're probably not starting any of these guys. If you're starting Patrick Mahomes, good luck. It's not going to be fun. Same thing with Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, and I know you're definitely not doing anything with Will Levis. And then these guys down here, by injury, whatever you want to call it, obviously they're not getting played. And then for the tight ends, like I said, Trey McBride is in. He does seem to be healthy. I do think he is a set and forget guy now. Travis Kelce, he has been relinquished from yuck. He's been relinquished from almost being in the shadow realm because it took Rashee Rice's knee going poof, and now all of a sudden he's an elite tight end one. But he's their wide receiver one pretty much at this point. So Travis Kelce's getting peppered. Trey McBride's going to get peppered. Jake Ferguson is getting peppered. And I like Ferg this week a little bit better than Brock Bowers just because we know what this offense is going to be. I have no idea what this Raiders offense is going to produce with. With Brock Bowers, he's had good matchups and he's failed. So a little bit worrisome. George Kittle is a guy coming off injury. I don't think flashed too much that last week, but he's still going to be good. I like George Kittle this week. Same thing with Dalton Kincaid. Kyle Pitts, pretty good game. Evan Ingram may be in line for a bounce back. I got to see that first. Cole Kmet getting pretty good usage. And Pat Freiermuth may break out a touchdown or two. You never know. But DeMarion Overshown is probably going to be on the field a lot for the Cowboys, and he's played very well. And I think if that's the guy that's covering over Pat Freiermuth here and there while also spying Justin Fields, I don't know how much Pat Freiermuth is going to be used. But then again, we're not always the greatest at covering tight ends. So I'm going to say Freiermuth if you have him, put him in your lineups. Tucker Kraft, really good week last week. He's at the back end of this match-dependent tier, but he could start moving up if Luke Musgraves doesn't, get involved with this offense again. But Tucker Kraft looked really good last week. Isaiah Likely, you're waiting to see something out of him consistency-wise, but, he's just a week one wonder. Mark Andrews still down here in the shadow realm, ain't going anywhere. That's pretty much Mark Andrews' home. And if you got any of these guys in the yuck tier, I hope you're not starting him. Conklin, maybe, but still not guys I'm really excited to start. And then these are the guys that are either still going through injury or on bye. I know TJ Hawkinson is not cleared to play yet, but I do think he has his practice window opened. I don't know if they opted to open that up yet. I'd have to double check. He was designated to return, so he's going to return to practice limited. But I would assume that he's going to start creeping back up to this elite tight end range because he's in that good of an offense right now. And I mean, just like that, we have gone through all of the emergency rankings, I guess. Just a quick look at everything. Going back over to the running backs, these are the guys that I have at the certain tiers. Kyron, Derek, Alvin, set and forget, Devon, and Josh Jacobs at elite RB1. I think high volume guys just means you're going to get a good floor. Brees, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Kenneth Walker, and James Cook. BIjan already played, but he is going to be in this high-end RB2 spot for the rest of the season until further notice. Tony Pollard, Najee Harris, Bijan Robinson, all playing really good. Chuba Hubbard, and a really, really good offense right now that is getting spoon-fed. But when Jonathan Brooks comes back, he's going to be moving down, and I would expect Jonathan Brooks to take that spot. These mid RB2s, you're hoping that they can do something. Ramondre Stevenson was getting talked about being benched for Antonio Gibson, so that's really worrisome. And just because of that, I'm going to throw Gibson here in the stash tier. Maybe look to see if he's on your waivers and throw him on your bench if you're in a league. But yeah, overall, pretty disappointed from what I'm seeing from Ramondre so far since week 1. Back over to the tight ends. You just saw them, but this last-minute glance. Get your lineup set for the quarterbacks. Like I said, if you've got Patrick Mahomes, do not play him. And for the wide receivers, if you've got your studs, you're playing them. But I really, really think if you've got Khalil Shakir, that's a good play this week. Even against Houston, they're going to have to score a lot of points to stay into this game. I think Jacksonville wide receivers are a pretty good play this week. Xavier Worthy, if you have him on your bench and you had Rashee Rice and you went out and got Xavier Worthy, you're likely playing him. I do think he's a decent flex, but just because of that big playability, we'll have to see what the usage is this week. But because I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to do too much, I don't have too much confidence in what Xavier Worthy is going to end up being. And then these mid-flex play guys, you need to see a little bit more out of these. But I do think Dontavian Wicks, Rome Odunze, Darnell Mooney had a really good week. Jordan Addison, these are all guys that I think are pretty decent plays alongside Josh Downs and Xavier Legette. But just like always, actually, I don't know why the Rashid Shaheed tier is. It should be in between these. Rashid Shaheed is just on his own. So Rashid's just going to stay here because, I mean, that's where he best fits. He's just kind of in a tier of his own just because you never know what he's going to do. He's either going to put up 20 or put up 0. But these are my last-minute rankings. This was the emergency stream. Scuffed. No intro, no transitions. Didn't really make it any sort of specialness here. But, God, is my hat not centered on my head right? I don't know. I'm tripping. It might be a little crooked. Oh my God, it's really crooked. How did I not notice that? Oh my God. Why is my hat that crooked? Or maybe it's just my head going all crazy. Oh, my hair is crazy. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. That was a fantasy stream. Yeah, I look like a mess, but that's because my fantasy team is a mess too. But hopefully that helped you out. Got all these tiers together. And I will see y'all. I don't know if I'll be able to get my regular episode up in time before the games come up, but hopefully that'll either be out by Saturday or I'll just skip it and do a week 6 episode. But good luck with your fantasy teams. My rankings are completely gone to crap. Bijan Robinson sucks. Happy football. Peace.